Today we enter one of the most intellectually demanding areas of law: interpretation of statutes. A statute, no matter how carefully drafted, cannot anticipate every situation. Thus, interpretation becomes the bridge between legislative intent and practical application. As future lawyers, this is where your real skill lies. Not just reading the law, but understanding what it truly means. Interpretation is not rewriting the law, it is discovering its meaning. Courts are not legislatures, yet they inevitably shape the law through interpretation. This creates a delicate balance, respecting legislative supremacy while ensuring justice. Why do we even need interpretation? Because language is inherently imperfect. Words may be ambiguous, vague, or context dependent. In KP Varghese versus ITO, the Supreme Court emphasized that interpretation must align with the purpose of the law, not merely its literal wording. This case reminds us that context is everything. All rules of interpretation ultimately aim at one goal: discovering legislative intent. These rules are broadly classified into primary and secondary principles. However, no rule operates in isolation. The court often moves between them depending on the situation. The literal rule is the starting point of interpretation. If the words are clear, they must be applied as they are. In State of Rajasthan versus Basant Nahata, the court reaffirmed that judges cannot rewrite statutes under the guise of interpretation. But this raises a concern. What if literal meaning leads to injustice? This is where the golden rule steps in. It allows modification of the literal meaning to avoid absurdity. The idea is simple: the law should not produce unreasonable results. It is a safety valve, used sparingly but critically. The mischief rule asks a deeper question: what problem was the legislature trying to solve? Originating from Hayden's case, it focuses on the defect in prior law and interprets the statute to remedy it. This approach is particularly useful in social welfare legislation. These are interpretative tools used when general words follow specific ones. For instance, under ejusdem generis, general terms are limited to the same class as specific terms. In Amar Chandra Chakravarti versus Collector of Excise, the court applied this principle to restrict overly broad interpretation. These rules ensure precision and prevent misuse of language. Internal aids. Internal aids are elements within the statute itself, such as the preamble, headings, and provisos. They help clarify legislative intent without going outside the text. In Kesavananda Bharati, even the preamble was used to understand the spirit of the Constitution. This shows that interpretation is not just about words but about structure. External aids. When internal aids are insufficient, courts may turn to external sources. These include parliamentary debates, law commission reports, and dictionaries. In R.S. Nayak versus A.R. Antule, such aids were used to resolve ambiguity. However, courts use them cautiously to avoid overstepping into legislative territory. Role of judiciary. The judiciary plays a crucial role in ensuring that interpretation remains fair and just. In Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, the court adopted a liberal interpretation to expand the scope of personal liberty. This demonstrates how interpretation can transform the meaning of rights over time. To conclude, interpretation is both an art and a science. It requires logic, sensitivity to context, and an understanding of societal needs. The ultimate aim is not merely to apply the law, but to ensure that justice prevails. And that ultimately is the purpose of all legal interpretation. Thank you.